Hi there, this is Melissa Mari, and I am going to talk to you a little bit about the Painbody. We talk a lot about the Painbody in our book Shadow Tech. This term was actually invented or thought of by a spiritual teacher named Eckhart Tolle, but we use the term to describe how destructive, parasitic energy systems take over the body of an individual or a whole culture and create what would be a body of pain. This is stored, repressed, emotional trauma that's stored in the energy, in the emotional body itself. This gets passed on to you intergenerationally, through your parents, through your family tree, right into your DNA. So you may not think that you have repressed emotional energy or this trauma, but are you operating at your fullest potential in this world? Are you able to actually create the life that you really feel that's deep inside of yourself? Do you keep having destructive, cyclical relationships with your loved ones? Do you have a hard time reaching your potential? Are you having a hard time just dealing with the world, which is increasingly challenging? Well, we as a culture actually have much stored, repressed shadow energy, or what Eckhart Tolle called a pain body. This is blocked energy, blocked trauma, a wound that is deep in your psyche that has not been integrated or metabolized into the rest of your life, into your psyche, into consciousness. So I would like to just briefly tell you how this pain body operated in my life. And that would be, so my grandmother was abandoned into an orphanage. And then my mother actually was abandoned by my grandmother. She just left my mother with her father, who was really brutal and not a good father. But that abandonment, that code of abandonment, of being unloved and not taken care of, actually took over her life, and my mother became mentally ill, and she abandoned me when I was around 15 completely. When my parents got divorced, she just checked out, didn't acknowledge that I was her daughter anymore, and that was the end of my mother. And then a year after, my father died of cancer. So I was on my own since I was 15, 16 years old. Now, what that did to me was that this particular code was passed on to me through multi-generations. And what this code did to me, what this abandonment code was, is it made me feel deep inside of myself unloved, a broken heart that so deep that I could not function well in the world. I created an incredible amounts of destructive relationships. I created being raped. I created being beaten. I created getting cancer. I created a lot of drama. I'm a performing artist, and I have had some minor success at doing my art, which comes deep from my soul. But something came in my way, whether that be a destructive relationship, whether that be band members that were addicted or were not able to hang in there when the going got tough. And I used to blame it out there. But what I realized is that I had all this stored emotional repressed trauma from my grandmother and my mother, and maybe generations prior to that, of being completely abandoned and completely unloved and completely dishonored. And this was stored in my body, in my emotional system. So, does everyone have this? Well, we in the Western culture, we have had thousands of years of wars and murder and rape and slavery and decimated populations of whole groups. The Armenian genocide was just talked about. Native American population was completely decimated. African Americans through slavery. Do you think this trauma just goes away? That you can just get over it? No. This gets stored in your energetic, emotional system, and it will actually become autonomous, a live, organic, autonomous, destructive energy system, and actually feed on this wound and create opportunities to keep the cycle of this destruction and this grief and this trauma to continue forever. Now, there is a way to heal it, and that's what I've been investigating and I've been doing on myself for the last 4 years. It's called emotional processing, or it's a John Ruskin, Ruskan technique called emotional clearing. You can Google it. And in our book, shadowtechbook.com, we talk about it in the chapter emotional processing. And it's when you actually sit, you get triggered. Any trigger can do it. A fight in your relationship, you get mad at somebody at work or at school or whatever. And instead of denying it, repressing it, going on to something else and just storing that energy, you actually use it as a tool to go deeper inside your own psyche to actually source the wound. You source the wound and you allow that wound, you allow the feeling, the emotion to go all the way through your body. Just like a kid who falls, a little kid, and they will scream and cry and then they're perfectly fine again. Well, this stored emotional energy needs to move. It needs to actually be allowed to flow through your body. You do not want to turn off your emotions. You want to be able to sit in these destructive emotions and allow them to flow. if you really do this, if you really start to do this, you can actually integrate, and you will feel more space in yourself. You will start to feel more free. Things that upset you do not upset you as much anymore, and this trauma starts to shrink. But we cannot keep projecting our trauma out into the world. We cannot keep creating trauma dramas everywhere we go, saying that this person is the enemy and that person is the enemy and we're all good. No, we are all harboring this pain, and it's up to us as individuals to deal with it and actually heal it. As we do this, we can operate in the world in a more adult way, a more adult, balanced way. Cole and I call it homo bilancia. That's the balanced human. That's the human that is okay to feel all their emotions, but doesn't have to project their destruction, their destructive thoughts and energy onto the rest of the world and into our relationships and into our families and into our culture. So that's what I wanted to talk to you about a little bit. We talk a lot about the Painbody and how this operates and how it transfers through culture like a virus. It is very viral, it's parasitic. There's been very few people who have investigated this. Paul Levy calls it Wetiko. Colin Wilson wrote a book called The Mind Parasites, which was supposed to be fiction, but it's actually really how this autonomous destructive energy works. It's alive, it's destructive, and it can completely take people over. Why is there so much more of a rash of people doing absolutely crazy things out in the world, being taken over and killing people, killing themselves live on Facebook? Why would somebody do that? Because they have an incredible amount of pain that has not been integrated. They are not crazy. They have trauma. This pain has to go somewhere, and it will take someone over if you don't start doing the work to integrate this energy. So we're going to be doing a talk tonight, Colin and I, on our book live on shadowtechbook.com is the website, or shadowtechtheory.com. And look soon for some music that is based on this work on the first stage of alchemy, which is called the Negrito, and it's called the O1experience.com. So that's it for today. If you want to hear more about how the shadow works in culture and yourself, and why we feel this is super important and should be a science, then check in back tonight at 7 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. Okay, bye. Have a great day.